For myself, I've always felt like since I was a young kid, I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit. My dad's an entrepreneur. We came over here from the Dominican Republic at a very young age, first generation Dominicans. My dad always taught me, do what you love and work hard doing it. And growing up, I always thought I would be in the finance industry. I always thought I would be in the banking industry. I went to school for that. I was successful in that, but I never really, fulfilled myself and what it is I wanted to do. I always felt like if my life was in somebody else's hands, and at any moment if they didn't like me for whatever reason, or they're making changes, now what?
Yep.
Eventually, I fell into that. In the banking world, where there's always a lot of flip-flop. You have your good times, you have your bad times. I was a top producer where I was at, and when it happened to me, I said to myself, like, man, this isn't fair. And I never want this to happen to me again. So for me, I took that as an opportunity to figure out what it is I wanted to do and what direction I wanted to go in. I always, since I was a kid, I had a passion for basketball. I've always had a passion for kids. And, when opportunity came together and presented itself, it was a perfect timing for me to kind of organize it, get it going, and now put it in a way for kids to have the opportunity to play. Around here in Miami, it's always the most athletic play, the different schools or different leagues. I wanted to get a whole new crop of kids, especially younger kids, and from a young age, teach them not only the game of basketball, but the opportunities it presents, throughout your life. I can say the majority of the people in my life I've met through basketball. I feel like if basketball is just one of those things that everybody really has a love for, whether you play or just watch, but it's something you appreciate, and when we play together, when you put these kids in a position to do these different things that, for example, myself, Mark, my different coaches that we're so passionate about, and we put it together for them to see them now start doing those things, is what's fulfilling for me.
Yeah.
I look at someone like Mark, with all the experience in the world, and I see the knowledge that he's giving to the kids that I have, and they're just absorbing it like, man, like, this is incredible. And they have no idea yet how much further in life that's going to take them, even if they don't continue playing basketball. It could be coaching, it could be schooling, whatever. Just those principles and fundamentals that you need to play basketball to really translate for a long way in life.
Mark, I guess more so what I'm asking is that let's say you have your youngest group in the gym. How do you identify kids that want to be there on their own accord, or kids that might have been brought in by the parent who wants them to be there? So how do you identify how do you identify that basketball is the right sport for your kid, I guess?
You can see it right away. You can see it right away. You can see the kids who you ask them to do something and they're there 1,000%. You also have the kid that's there because their dad just wants to get them out of the house, get them on Fortnite, get them on the computer, and you have to really find that common ground and say, hey, listen, I know right now you don't really want to be here and want to do this, but let me make this as engaging, as fun for you eventually, end up liking it. And more often than not, the kids really fall in line with, man, this is a lot funner than I thought it would be. So for me, it's just always, there's different things, warming up, you can see right away the way they stretch, the way they run, their body language. After doing this for such a long time now, you could have really, by the second they walk into the door, you can tell whether they want to be there or not.
Mark, what about your little girl? Has she taken any affinity to the sport? I mean, growing up in a basketball family?
No, she's not going to do basketball at all. No.
No?
She has no interest. She's a girly girl. Going to do horseback riding. She has been asking about tennis, but lately she has not been doing that. It's been more horseback riding. So I don't think sports is going to be her thing. It was completely.
But you don't have a little Tykes hoop in the house just in case.
No,
right?
no, that was only for Markai. And I didn't really push him into it. He kind of took it on as himself. He just kind of was basketball, and then I kind of had to manage him throughout the process.
Right.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. So I guess my next question is, when do you recommend that players kind of make the young players make the jump to private training like you, or going from maybe their parents in the driveway to a more formal system? How young does that start these days, and what do you recommend?
Growing up, I could, the majority of people I grew up with, we didn't start playing basketball till we were like 9 and 10 years old.
Exactly. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, now you start 9 and 10 years old, you're way behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that we have kids as young as 3 and 4 years old come now, and whether they can do a lot of things or not, that's not what we're really concerned about. You just really want to teach them the game so that when they are able, that they're ready to go. But it's crazy how much younger that curve has gotten.
What are you working on with the 3 and 4 year olds? I can imagine problems with the size of the ball, just hoops. I mean, general coordination. What do you?
Yeah, a lot of it is just teaching them the way this works. The stretching, the conditioning, the formality of the way it is. As they progress and do those things better, you keep adding more and adding more. But for the most part, you just want to teach them how it works. You come in, you stretch. After we stretch, we do a little conditioning to get our body going. After we do conditioning, we do our dribbling because, we want to make sure our handles are good. And, working on catching. The shooting's towards the end. At the beginning, it's always dribble, catch, make sure you know how to run forward, run backwards, run side to side, and those little things to help them when they really start playing.
This seems like that would be a major focus really up until kids can hit the rim. At what age is that happening, and what's the adjustment look like? How much should you do before a player can even shoot the ball properly, I guess is what I'm asking.
I always start with the basket really, really low for them. Really, really low. If they could even reach. If they can't reach, don't even bother with the basket. I don't even bother with the basket. I just do a lot of ball handling, a lot of catching stuff. Usually by 5 years old, they're already hitting 8.5 feet. They're already getting it up there consistently. Like my daughter is, she turns 6 next week, and she's already hitting 10 feet.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that if you teach them right from the get, it's only a matter of time before they start getting that power to really get it up. And then you work from the way inside out.
So I guess how many players do you like? When do players start playing competitively? And again, what's your recommendation? How do you guys set that up internally? How long are these players working out with you just privately until maybe you turn the competition up?
It varies. But for the most part, again, we started with 10, 11 years old. Now there's leagues as young as 5-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things that even at 5 years old, you're doing recreational leagues that, to be honest, are a lot more competitive than some of the older leagues because of the way the parents get into it and the energy that's behind those kids playing. It turns out to be really competitive.
Yeah.
And can you speak more on that and maybe just give some pointers from what you've seen as to the level of parent, the level parents should be involved with their kids' development? Should they be treating their 5-year-olds like they are, maybe in their last year of AAU? You hear more of those stories at a teams like that. What are some tips you have from parents to kind of manage their involvement?
Being that we're Hispanic, we're already fired up people. We're energetic people. You go to a baseball game in the Dominican Republic, and it's a party. It's a party, and it's no different. When you come to a basketball game over here, or anything like that. The parents, the aunts, the uncles, everybody's in it.
Mm-hmm.
At the beginning, it's cool. You want your parents engaged. You want your parents involved, but there becomes a point where it's too involved. Now it's interfering with what you're trying to do. I've always told parents that it's very difficult for us to be successful if you're sending one message and we're sending another.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key.
We're always going into those parents that think they know it all. They think they know what's best for their kids. And that's where you have your issues. That's where we try having a conversation like, hey, listen, we know what you want. You know what you want. We have to meet in the middle and figure out that when he's here, he's ours. When he's out of here, you can coach him, you can help him, you can do what you got to do aligned with the message that we're trying to send. Because more often than not, we've had kids in our program for 5, 6, 7 years, but their heads get so big because of what their parents are feeding them that it just eventually crashes and burns, and the kid just eventually loses passion for basketball. And that's what we always try to avoid.
Okay, so what are some other consequences of this action? Losing a passion for basketball obviously would be one. I could imagine starting playing so young, but what are some other consequences of, you know, parents' over-involvement that you see at the younger level, whether it be, losing passion for the game, or maybe just even bad habits like talking back to you behind their parents' back, stuff like that?
It's, talking behind the parents' back, being disrespectful to not only the game, being in the game, and disrespecting the coach. I've had players, and I've seen players in the middle of the games curse out their dads in the stands. And that's ugly. You always try to avoid that, but you also have to understand that you don't know what's going on when they're not around you. But you have an idea because you hear the dad, hey, shoot it, don't pass it, all that stuff. And what we've seen throughout the years is just that passion die down, because of the parents just here and here and here and here, and I think the reason that we're successful as long as we have been is because we always have open communication with our families. I think anybody you can ask as part of our program, if they have an issue, if they have a question, if they don't know what necessarily the role of their kid is on the team, you can speak to myself, you can speak to any of our coaches, and we have no problem making sure that you are clear in what we want and we are clear in what you want for your kid. Because at the end of the day, our goal for the kids is that for them to be successful in life through basketball. I would love for these kids to make their high school teams. I would love for these kids to get college scholarships. I would love for them to make the NBA. But the fact of the matter is, the further along you get, the slimmer the chances get, and you have to be prepared for what's next. And that's what I try to tell the kids, and I try to instill in the kids. We're playing ball, but this is a lot more than that. This teaches you life. This teaches you friendship, relationships, teaches you how to communicate, how to be a team player, because at the end of the day, no matter what you do in life, if you're not a team player and really willing to, have that type of teammate relationship with your people, then you're not going to be successful in what it is you want to do.
Like, you got anything?
Yeah, all of those pointers are good. When you first start out, I used to get that a lot, being an NBA parent, being an NBA player that's a parent. But it's a different conversation with me, though, because most of the time I do know more than the coach. So I don't. So what I do is, so what I do is I don't come in with that type of attitude. You know what I mean? Because I understand what I always tell parents is you have to be grateful to this coach because he's taking time away from his family, to put in time with your kid. He doesn't have the coach. Most coaches don't make a lot of money. You don't make a lot of money coaching, especially when they're little kids and at AAU. And I know it's expensive because I went through it. So it's a catch-22. But for me, I always try to develop some type of line of communication with the coach so that what I'm teaching him at home, we're on the same page. So I don't want to be telling him to shoot the ball a lot or telling him, hey, man, this guy's right-handed. He's going right all the time. Send him left. But the coach is telling them to send him right into a trap. So, I have to be on the same page with that type of stuff. For me, it's great to be with Hoop Dreams because it gives me an opportunity to just get kids better. That's my speech every day. The days that I go to Hoop Dreams, it's just about getting better. Because if you see a kid getting better, that means he's putting in the work. You can't get better without the work. So that means I've won by me coming over there saying, you guys need to do some of this stuff when you're at home. You need to go play ball, when you're not at the program. This is how you're going to get. You can't just come here and practice and think you're going to get better. That's not going to work. It's constant repetition. I think a lot of those guys catch on to that. Another point I'm trying to make in Hoop Dreams is to teach them the game of basketball. Like simple pick and roll. You set a pick, roll. I got a guy, Dante. We got a guy in our program, Dante, who is my favorite. Tall guy, slim. I mean, his thing is in his head. It's just about having confidence, and not being – just having the confidence that he can do it. So now, if you saw Dante when I first came to Hoop Dreams, you saw him now. You know, it's like night and day. He says he's rolling to the basket. He's catching the ball in traffic now. He's finishing in traffic. You know, and it's just all about him just listening and getting repetition. So, you know, this
you can tell in his body language too.
Yeah, you know, he's saying he's more confident. You know, he builds social skills. You know, he's not like he's not like the butt of every joke now, thinking that he has to be silly to kind of fit in with the guys. He's actually like a leader now. He's one of the guys who leads the group. So those are things that are fulfilling for me. Again, with starting sports. Back when I grew up, I come from a sports city. You know, so football season we played football, baseball season we played baseball, basketball season we played basketball. That's just how it was. So I started playing sports at 5 years old, which is what I tell Jackie now when we're talking, which is why I don't play ball now, because I've been playing ball since I was 5 till I was 38. So I think I deserve a break from playing a little ball now. Sure. I don't think I need to do it. I started at 5 years old. You know, and it was kind of like the same thing. It was just like John said, it was just trying to teach us the game and figure out what it was that we were good at, you know, teaching us basic skills. And then it kind of, you know, and then you could see the guys who kind of would, you know, okay, this guy's catching on a little fast. This one needs a little bit more time. And then you plug people in accordingly. So for me, it's just about getting better, getting these kids better, building social skills, man. And having them get to the point where they're confident enough to believe that they can accomplish something if they put the work in. That's just the key.
I like that. Yeah, for sure. It's almost like it's in part to you're instilling a sense of coachability with their social skills and everything. But it is very important early on to learn that. Yeah, practice gets you better.